Hey guys, what's up? And again, sorry for how dark it is in here and crappy camera. I'm probably gonna make this black and white because it might make me look a little bit clearer. I don't know. Anyways, I was checking out Zinnia Jones's channel. Well, in particular, I was checking out her latest video, which I highly recommend you guys check out because it's freaking awesome. It's in the text description. The link is right there, so go check that out. You want to check it out before this one or after, it doesn't matter. And I'm writing this in response to that video because not only do I agree with it, but I also want to bring up something else that I think goes right along with it. And I think, Zinnia, if you're watching this, you most likely already know this, or even if you don't or whatever, I think you'll appreciate it. So, yeah. And yeah, awesome freaking videos. I recommend, again, people check out that video and subscribe to the channel also, because there's some really good videos on there too. I know I subscribe. Anyway, enough rambling. The video, if you haven't seen it yet, is pretty much about how fundamentalist Christian conservatives and Islamic extremists aren't really all that together different and share many of the same values. Despite the fact that Christians, conservatives, always want to separate themselves from this, Muslim extremists, they still end up talking about the exact same things and agreeing with each other. And Christian conservatives here have even gone so far as to state that the reason why this country is attacked by them and why we're suffering here is because we're not more like them. Now, I've argued this before. I had videos up on this before. I've said this before a long time ago. And years ago I was saying this shit, that there really isn't much of a difference between a Christian fundamentalist and an Islamic fundamentalist. The only real things that separate the two are the fact that they each worship a different invisible sky daddy, and they happen to differ on a couple of their tenets of their dogma, but quite frankly, there's not much different, even right down to what they believe in their dogma. Same shit. I could come up with a lot of points to reinforce it, but one, there really is no reason when all you have to do is just look at what Christian conservative leaders are saying themselves. I mean, it's coming out of their own mouths that they wish that they could be more like those guys, and that the reason why this country is being attacked is because they hate the fact that this country is not like them. I mean, never mind the fact that the reason why the Muslims are pissed off at us is because this government has had a history of, violently suppressing them and effing with their governments and setting up dictatorships and puppet leaders and completely fucking with their lives. No, none of that politics has nothing to do with their ire against us. It's just because we're not more like them and they hate our freedoms. That's the reason. Let's just let that go. I could bring that up, but again, the video that I'm responding to already does a really good job of showing them saying this, just regurgitating their own garbage right back to them as proof. And I just be repeating some of the same things that, you said, Zinnia. So instead, I'm going to bring up another angle. And it's one that I'm not only doing for the sake of people who, agree with this or, align themselves with this view of just how dangerous, Christian conservatives can be. I'm doing this for them as well, because I think it's time for them to understand this, and it's time for them to make a choice. And you'll know what I mean after I finish explaining. There has long been a struggle in this country when it comes to morality and the way this country should be leaning. Christian conservatives have always felt that this country should be more, Christian leaning. They feel that this government and the morality of this country has taken a major slide because we're becoming less Christian-like. Just to go back to that video again, there was an interesting point about how the reason why we're being attacked is because we're allowing pornography into people's homes. Pornography is invading people's homes via the internet, which is kind of funny. It's like if you have a computer in your house and you have an internet connection, the second you open up Firefox or Internet Explorer, you instantly start seeing some dick going into some office. Oh my God, I'm being attacked! Never mind the fact that you actually have to go and look up these freaking sites, but and also the fact that, they've done studies showing that some of the most porn-addicted people happen to be evangelicals. But no, I'm going off topic. They're saying that there's a major slide because of a lack of Christianity, but also at the same time, there's a struggle about the values of America. About, don't people deserve to be free? Don't people deserve to live lives the way they want? You know, that's all liberals seem to want, people to be treated fairly and equal. I know people are hating gays and all that, but they're human beings too. All this, you know, beef about tradition versus freedom. And the reason for this is very simple. Very simple. It comes down to three particular values that Christian fundamentalists have never liked. They have never gone along with these three. And many of them without even realizing it. They think they actually want these three core values. Some of them, like, almost worship these values as much as they worship their particular feudal lord. But these three is what stands in the way between, you know, people wanting other people to live freer lives and people wanting to live a more religious life. Those values are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if you haven't guessed already. Yes, Mr. Conservative, you've heard me correctly. The three values that you guys cannot stand, the ones that you're constantly butting up against anytime you want to instill your traditions on this country, are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Your religion has never stood for that. Ever. Ever. No, ever. Seriously, I'm sorry. Stop. Put the flag down. You guys have never been for that. And there have been other Christians who were smart enough to figure that out. Remember back in Uganda when that whole hullabaloo was going over about that anti-gay bill and the fact that they were putting, you know, the death penalty for anybody who happens to be gay? Remember the guy David Bati? He was the one who implemented that bill. Well, he's an evangelical. He happens to be part of a group of evangelicals, an organization called The Family, which was started here in the United States, and they went and influenced this guy to come up with some of that shit. And interestingly enough, in an interview, he stated that the biggest obstacle to a true righteous governing Christian country is a democracy. Because in a democracy, the people rule. No Christian country can have that. Because in a truly Christian running country, only God is supposed to rule. Chew on that, it's important for later. But right now I want to get back to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those three core values have never been on a Christian agenda. Never has been. And it never can be. Because your religion is about submission to a higher authority. God. You have a certain deity you worship, and you believe that ultimately you're supposed to submit to that particular authority in order to live a just life. But in that submission, you have to discard the belief that all human beings are entitled to a life where they have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let's briefly examine those three so you can understand where I'm coming from here. The right to life. Well, that seems kind of self-explanatory. Human beings supposedly have the right to live on this planet. Now, I'm sure a lot of Christians will be jumping up saying, now, of course we believe in that. I mean, we take it so far as, look, we're called right to lifers when it comes to babies and abortions, right? Not so fast. You guys also believe that if people don't happen to follow your particular tenet or aren't Christian enough, they deserve to die. What about the death penalty, guys? And some of you guys want to stretch the death penalty far past violent crimes. Again, remember, there was a guy who was trying to, give the death penalty just for liking other human beings with the same genitalia that they do. You guys don't really believe in the right for human beings to live their lives just as they are. There happens to be some stipulations they need to follow first. There's some things that are contingent upon that right to life. It's like, you only have a right to life if you happen to follow our particular path. You don't follow that path, fuck you. And Abrahamic religions are filled with stories of what happens to people who don't follow their path of life. They die. Check out some of the exploits of Joshua sometime. So that takes care of that value. Then, liberty. Freedom. In order for a human being to be free, they have to be able to choose their own path the way they see fit. They have to be able to make their own choices, and they have to be able to figure things out on their own. They cannot have somebody else dictating their destiny or their fates or where they're going to be headed in life. They can't already have a path set for them. This is one of the reasons why slavery was later on heavily debated against, because how can you possibly have the right to liberty if somebody else owns you and dictates that your life from now on is going to go this way? But when you're living a devout religious life, that's exactly what you're doing. You're not giving yourself the freedom to dictate how your life is going to go. Because when you're living a religious life, you already have the core values that you're going to be following before you get a chance to choose what values you're going to follow. You already have a set of laws that you're supposed to be following, whether or not you choose to or not, or whether you get a chance to examine it. Your 10 commandments, or really the 600 plus commandments, but we don't need to get into that. You're already told what type of person you're supposed to marry. You're told how you're supposed to raise your family. You're told how you're even supposed to live a righteous life. And you have no say in the matter. If you're the type of person who feels that you're supposed to be free enough to decide these things on your own, and you decide, you know what, I don't want to live that way, I want to live this way. Religion says, no, you can't do that. If you dare to do that, we're going to make life tough for you, and at the end of the day, God himself will make sure that you're going to end up spending your eternal life, your afterlife, in eternal punishment. That's not freedom. How can that possibly be freedom when you're not even given a real choice? Your life's already in hell. You don't have a choice. If you happen to choose this path, well, that's already set for you too. There's no way out of it. You're going to hell. If you choose this path, you're going to heaven. And even in your afterlife, you can't choose where you're going to go. If you're righteous, you're going to be going to heaven, and even that is spent in servitude. Because if you look at what's supposed to happen to you when you go to heaven, you spend the rest of your days eternally worshiping God, singing praises to him. That's it. There's no yachting or boating or playing around or having fun. No. You are there basically to be God's support group. That's it. And if you don't go that way, then you're going to be somebody's chew toy in a fiery pit. That's it. There is no liberty here, even after death. So this flies in the face of the belief that you have the right, the liberty of choosing your own path and deciding how you're going to live your life. Last one, because I spent too much time on that. Pursuit of happiness. People supposedly have a right to live their lives trying to achieve whatever it takes that makes them happy. Of course, with the understanding that that happiness is not going to F with somebody else's happiness or mess with their freedoms. This is something that religion, once again, has always had a problem with. If you take fundamentalist Christianity, the only thing that's supposed to be making you happy is serving God. That's it. Think about so many of the pleasures that human beings, more or less, depending on where you live and how you live your life, take for granted. Enjoying a fine wine, eating some good food. Maybe you're the casual sex type person. Maybe the type of person who likes going to movies. Maybe you happen to, like philosophizing about certain interesting truths. What is the truth? Is there a truth? Is there a subjective truth? Is there an objective truth? Maybe you're scientifically minded. You want to pursue that path and try to find out what are the building blocks of life. So many of these things fly in the face of Christianity, especially if you happen to take the philosophical and scientific route. So especially the casual sex, they definitely don't like that. The only thing that's supposed to be making you happy is service to God. And even if you happen to be doing something else that you may not necessarily link to a service to God, well, that something else you're doing had better be because God wanted you to do it or because you're doing it in a way that's pleasing to God. You really don't have a say in what makes you happy, especially if it happens to be going against the tenets that this religion has already set for you. So yeah, pursuit of happiness? Hell no. Just ask any particular gay person who's happy being with another person of the same gender. That makes you happy? Fuck you. That's not what God wants. Or, if you happen to be, what makes me happy? I do like going to a religious path, but I don't want to worship, worshiping God's not what makes me happy. I want to worship Cthulhu. That's what makes me happy. Fuck you. You're not going down that path. We don't care if that makes you happy. It's not hurting anybody else. Well, hopefully, considering the Cthulhu thing. But hopefully it's not hurting anybody else. And still, that's not good enough for the religion of the fundamentalists. So yes, those three particular values have always been a problem. It's always been a thorn in the side of fundamentalists. Any fundamentalist, really. And yes, that is the major problem that even Islamic fundamentalists have. Because you look at their particular religious views, it goes along the same way. They believe that their particular God, Allah, has already set a path for them to walk, and you walk that path and you're virtuous, and you try to deny that path and you're a fuck-up. And we may have to get rid of you. Now, I'm bringing this up not because I'm trying to say, look how evil these fundamentalists are and, twist the screws. No, I'm bringing this up because for any fundamentalist watching this in America, any Christian fundamentalist, it's time for you guys to stop deluding yourselves and it's time to start making a choice. What are you for? Most of you fundamentalists consider yourself patriots. You wrap wrap yourselves in the American flag. You talk about the founding fathers. You bullshit yourselves all the time talking about how this country is founded on Christian values when actually the views that helped to form this government were from the Enlightenment period. That's a whole other topic. It's time for you guys to make a choice. Are you for your religious life, or are you for the values that supposedly founded this country? If you're the type of person who really does believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, if you really believe that a democracy is the way a government should function, you know, a government where the people have power and not some power from on high, if that's what you believe, if you really think that that's the great idea, you need to seriously re-examine your religious life, because it is butting up against it. Your religious life doesn't go for that. And if you just take a moment to pause, breathe, and look at your religious life, you will realize that I have a point. Hell, that African in Uganda already figured it out, and he was brave enough to follow his convictions. He wholeheartedly believes that a democracy is not the way to go, and he's gone so far as to say it. Is that the path you want to walk? If that's the path you want to walk, where you believe, yes, look, we need to be citizens of God, F this life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness shit, F this democracy shit, we need to submit to God now before it's too late. That's a true, functioning moral country. That's the only way we'll have our morals back. If that's what you're about, fine. Follow your convictions, but realize you're going up against life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Those particular values and rights that supposedly are the founding foundations, the founding blocks. I can't talk right now. They're basically supposed to be one of the standing pillars of this country. You're going up against that. If you really want to be about your religious life, you have to be prepared to knock that pillar down if you want to remake this particular country into the religious one that you guys desperately want. You can't have both. You can't call yourself a flag-waving American, all about the founding fathers and the Constitution and all that, and at the same time cling to your cross saying, I want this to be a Christian country, because the two cannot reconcile. One path is the path of submission to some supposed higher authority, without question. The other path is a path to self-actualization and human empowerment. The two cannot mix. And this is why we're having these conflicts. And this is why you're constantly butting heads against the liberals, who, despite their flaws, and there are a few, ultimately are trying to get equality for all human beings, which is something religion has never really believed in. Because with religion, you have those who are with God and the undeserving who are left. And your actions prove it. Your words prove it. So it's time to make a choice. Catch you guys later.